Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Cowboy build. We have done the frame, we have done the interior. The frame has got the fuel tanks and spare wheels and everything on. So now it's the engine that's going under the knife. The engine in the Fiat Iveco version of this truck. It's a V8 engine, and in its day was actually pretty good. It's a trick that the Italians have never done after this truck. You could also get it with branded as a Magirus. That's a German brand. It's the exact same truck except for one thing. It had a V10 engine. The Fiat Iveco version you will find somewhere around the world. Those are actually collector's items as the real trucks. The Magirus is also in a sort of way that's because you can't find them. The engines were terrible. So for once the Italians did something right that the Germans did not. But the ITALERI version shouldn't be a problem. It will never catch fire or anything unless I play with matches. We're not going to do that. Well, just a little. For safety, we are aiming it the other way. Away from the engine. The easy and obvious part when you start building an engine is the engine blocks itself. Just cut them up and you're on. You could at this part cut out the other pieces as well, but let's not make a mess on the table already. When I build normally just for myself, it happens that the table might be a little overflowing of parts that I cut off a little early. So, and I guarantee you are going to do the same. As you see, I am sanding the halves of the engine. There's a reason for it, and you will see the reason really soon. It's the same issue as when you put together the halves of the fuel tanks. There will be a seam splitting the engine directly across. It looks kind of weird even after you have painted it, so I try to get most of it away. We're not going to do that too much in this build. Sometimes I even have to use this plastic putting and other solutions to get them away. But we're going to do the easy part to just get some of it away. And here you see. By doing this, I get a more collected smooth line from where the two halves meet. At some parts of the engine build, it actually helps us. Be sure not to take away, like for example, there's a little stud here, that's the oil tap. So be careful when you do this not to take away part of the decoration. The gearbox is kind of a problem. I haven't met any ITALERI kit where this wasn't a problem. You also meet this problem on smaller cars like from AMT. Well, you always meet problems with AMT, but there's always this taps that are going to help you mount the engine in the frame. It's kind of hard getting into there, but I'm trying. And so should you. There's no reason for not trying unless you know it won't work. As you can see, I have already shot some primer on the engine. It happened because I was some of the parts that I had been using on frame was on this sprue as well, and you can there is no danger painting the parts before you take them off or glue them. Some actually prefer to do it that way. Sometimes even I do. So it's just a matter of how you like to do it. No rights or wrong. I'm pretty content with the result. Then we add glue. Of course it wasn't enough. Try to get as much glue on to cover all the seams, because if you don't do that, it will leave a gap and it will show. Trust me on that one. And then you apply some pressure. You don't need clamps to do this, but I see someone do it. Just not necessary. Just hold it for a few minutes. Seconds, not minutes. I also want to take the opportunity to apologize that the last one had to be done with a voiceover. That was because my whole family, my wife, kids, well, even me who don't get sick, I got sick. And my voice was not much to do to brag about that at the moment. So I did a voiceover. It was the best solution for all parts. As always, when you build, have the manual. I do a little freehand because you get used to it when you have done it a few times. But I don't recommend not using the manual, no matter how much you have been building before. You are never good enough to not forget parts. Some light sanding. Very so I remember. There we are. The end part where the drive shaft go into, the gearbox is on. Probably doesn't matter if you do it the wrong way, upside down. But of course, always try to get it correct. I got some question why I did recommend using a cutter when I don't have one myself. And well, yesterday I ordered a cutter because I'm getting a bit tired of these sprues that are giving me a lot of struggle. You can, of course, as I have said earlier, you can use a scissor. Just make sure it's a sharp one and that it's a strong one, because if you get one that's bending apart in the wrong directions, it's actually kind of dangerous. This is a cool hobby, but it's not worth risking fingers for. Rumors has it that it doesn't grow out anymore if you lose one. Now I am being a bit cocky. As you might notice, I didn't test fit before I glued shut. Always test fit. It was okay this time. On the engines, there is, on the front part of the engine at least, you have the universal band that goes to the generator and to the fan. That band, of course, it's gonna be black, and the rest of the engine isn't. That's a brush issue, and I recommend that you brush it afterwards if you have finished the paint of the engine. You might have to do a little touch-up because suddenly you can get you hit some other parts, and it's easier to fix that with a brush afterwards. But because of that, I don't do as they do here before I am totally finished with the engine parts, including the black rubber parts on the band, just because I can't reach them if the fan and the radiator is glued into it. But I can paint it before I glue it. That's what I'm going to do afterwards. And then there's the top halves. Make sure that if you're going to cut off both of them at once, make sure that they are the same. If not, make sure that you know which one is going to which side. It's just... Oh, it came off. Okay. After I started this build, I have become more interested in the real Cowboy. I knew it a little before, but I had to get more into it and learn more about it. And it's actually a pretty interesting truck, considering that it was something that wasn't really common in Europe before. Its list of equipment was even larger than I thought. I have been talking about that. You did get the chrome stacks, chrome horns. Well, most things were chromed, even the bumpers and handguards. But what I didn't know is that it was actually one of the first trucks that was optional with both air suspension on the front and back and on the cabin as well. I thought that was a Scania or a Volvo thing, but it wasn't. It also had a high level of items in the cabin as well. Folding tables and heated seats. Oh, that didn't stuck. There was just a lot of things that threw on. And I don't know this, but I suspect the price for these trucks must have been really high for its time. But from what I can see, that didn't stop people from buying them, because they were a big hit. They sold a whole lot of them. And it ventured into the later Turbo Star. The last years of this truck model was really interesting. There's always a question before a truck model gets obsolete. For you American viewers and builders, you might be used to that the trucks last for several years. But in Europe, a truck is really going to be a problem both economically and regarding to operational safety when it passes 3 years, and that's the most common time where the larger trucking companies start to thinking about replacing them and replacing them. The trucks that I owned, the oldest one, it was changed when it was 5 years old. There was really no way in defending its right to stay on the road anymore. One could say it's standing more in my wallet than on the road. In Northern Europe, like here in Scandinavia, the Iveco is not a brand that you see very often. There's a couple of reasons for it. First of all, it's the Italian way of building engines. We all know about the fancy Ferraris and Lamborghini. But even those cars have issues that make them, of course no one uses them as a daily driver, but it will be unsuitable as a daily driver in Europe, Northern Europe, because the engine blocks consist of so many parts, and I'm talking about the blocks. So does the Iveco trucks even still today. When you add temperature that changes a lot during the seasons, it makes really a mess when you try to keep every part from leaking oil. They do leak oil, a lot of oil. Next will be the headers. Number B52. That's a nice number. Okay, that way now. And then we're going to do the small stuff. Always love the small stuff. Start the engine. I need a little sanding. Just a tad. Yeah, looks good. Of course I had to pry the starter engine off. That's okay, it hasn't cured yet. Okay, we have to fix that. That's how it is. Be careful when you add more glue. There comes to a point that if there's too much, it will just melt off the plastic. That's especially important to remember when you do the frame or other parts that really aren't that thick. For example, when you are attaching the fuel tanks to the frame, the solution to get to the stick is not adding a whole lot of glue. Just enough glue, not too little, not too much. And when you get the finger feeling into it, it will be... you catch on pretty fast on what really is enough. But in some cases it's better to add too little and then adjust than add too much and just make a whole mess to it. We don't like mess. And let me also point out that the music playing is arranged by VH1, it's not me. I don't listen to Living La Vida Loca all the time, but when I do, it's with you. Even though I have to admit it's kind of fitting for when building an Italian truck. Yes, I know he's not Italian, but like this. Then we got the oil filters on. Wish it could stand up by itself, but we're not going to get any help from it, obviously. When I was about 14, my stepfather's father, he bought another Fiat. It was the second one in his garage. It was the Ritmo, or Ritmo as it's pronounced in Italian. It was a weird little car. It's a 5-door hatchback. No, sorry, it was a 3-door actually. And the quality of that car is something I will always remember, because it was, well, to put it simple, it was not there. It was that car that learned me that everything people say, every story about Italian cars, well, they are true. That's actually one of the first cars I ever drove. That was when you are 16 in Norway, you can start as a learner with and drive with someone who already has the driver's license. And that was one of the cars that I used. Man, it was fast. It was a bloody fast car, but it was really scared to drive fast because the steering was terrible, the seats were terrible, and you felt that the thickness of the door, well, it was like sitting in a Japanese paper house. It's kind of cool seeing them today, but I can't understand why people dare to buy those. At least not even the one that was really smaller than the Ritmo, the Uno. That car also, it leaked oil all the time. It was... my friends used to joke about that. Italian cars must be women because they have the periods quite regularly. And I have to agree. I almost bought an Italian car myself for some years ago. I believe it was the Alfa 159. It was when that model arrived at the market in 2006, I think. It was really nice to look at. I had never seen such a gorgeous car, and I was, well, very close to buying one. The dealer really had me. But when that car broke down when I was test driving it on the way back to the dealer. I was pretty reminded of that. This is not a smart move. Well, the camera obviously didn't like us talking about the Italian cars because I got a message that it was overheating. Well, it's summer, so what can I expect? I'm still learning. This is the first video shoot I do in this kind of way. And it is the first tutorial, but it won't be the last. I promise you that much. But I will probably invest in another camera. That said, I'm pretty happy with this one. Well, over to the engine. I took the liberty to assemble the engine in total. I have attached everything except the radiator and the fan. Those steps will come afterwards. If you are building this kit, this probably goes for other trucks from ITALERI as well. The building of the construction of the engine is not just one of these steps. It's not necessarily just two either, but it continues on the other side. Be sure not to forget some important parts. On this kit, the Iveco, it had it's a turbo engine, of course, and it has, of course, 2 turbos. So when you attach them, make sure that you have picked the right parts for the right turbo, because it will be a bitch to trying to get the other one to sit on the wrong side. Well, apart from that, it's an easy build. I recommend it a lot. It looks nice also. The next thing I will do is shoot some paint on it, and then go with a brush on these parts that are supposed to be black. I will also outline some parts, that the rubber hoses and fittings and so on. If you want to do that, then you can also try to add some color on oil filters and such. It's not hard, but it's not necessary on the first build if this is the first thing you are going to build. If you want to do it, of course, nothing is stopping you. Go ahead. It's just cool that you try to do it, but it's not necessary. I will do that on the next truck I build. I will do a little more detailing, and well, maybe I will sort a whole episode of just detailing. But not this time. Of course, getting it painted, make some few adjustments on the colors, as I said, and then attach the fan and get it into the frame. And then we are nearing the construction of the body itself, and that's really the end of the line for this one. If we add up the couple of hours I have used, it's not much. You will probably use a lot more. Not a lot more. That's not right. But if you are going to negotiate with yourself whether or not to buy a kit if it's going to take too much hours, that's not the point. The point is to have fun while you build. For me, I can do this in one evening. Of course, not when I'm shooting tutorial, but that's how I do it. That's not supposed to be the measurement for your build. I'm just here to show you how you can do it, and try to make it look simple, because really it is simple. Well, painting time. Until the next video. See you.